up, let's begin with the war updates coming in from West Asia as the U.S. Central Command has announced that the American troops launched a second wave of strikes against Iran, targeting the Iranian military capabilities allegedly used to threaten vessels that are transiting the Strait of Hormuz, a key international waterway for global commerce. Now, according to CENTCOM, as the operations that were carried out under the directions of the U.S. Commander-in-Chief, in this case, which is President Trump, now with Washington stating that the strikes intended to hold Iran accountable for the actions that it says endangers the security of maritime navigation and in the strategically vital shipping corridor. This marks the fifth consecutive day of the strikes that has now been continued on part of the United States military. Let's in the meantime also get you an understanding exactly when we speak of these strikes. The U.S. military says that the Iranian military capabilities that are used to threaten vessels moving in the Strait of Hormuz that has been targeted. Let's get you the update that CENTCOM, or the Central Command of U.S. military, that has now said that the U.S. forces also disabled a non-compliant vessel in the Arabian Gulf. Now, this is coming at a time where, despite several warnings that were issued, there was a vessel that continued with its journey to reach an Iranian port. Now, remember, with the Strait of Hormuz promptly being closed by Iran, the naval blockade on parts of the U.S. has now been reimposed in the area. And now this is coming at a time, even when it comes to the vessels or the containers either leaving Iranian ports or about to reach our Iranian ports, they are now being blocked by the U.S. Navy, and especially those tankers which are suspicious and under the U.S. sanctions. Let's connect with Mayank on this. Mayank, good morning. Another day, what we are looking at, these strikes on part of the United States that continues, the tensions that has been escalating. It's getting worse by the day.
Good morning, Amita, and good morning to the viewers. Since 4th of March, on 1/5 of the portion of the oil and its derivatives, they have, in one way or the other, have vanished from the market. And this is what has brought the focus on the Strait of Hormuz again. Whereas the bigger thing like nuclear issues have gone back, have been left aside. Now, what is more important is actually naval blockade from the U.S. forces. It is like they have, as per the previous reports, almost 20 warships are standing or are based around the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is named as Gulf of Oman. And they are keeping a watch on every vessel which is moving from towards Strait of Hormuz or coming out from that side. And that includes, they are keeping an eye on AIS, which is Automated Identification System, which is like an independent identity given to every vessel which has to move, which contains the information about the crew on board, the cargo, the journey to which country or which place it is, and from where it has emerged. Now, the other important point is actually the entire focus right now is to as you have used the word, actually, in one way or the other, to blunt the capability of Iran to target any kind of vessel which is moving that side, which can be civil vessel, which can be military vessel. Thus, what they are doing is actually, now what had been the means by which Iran had been launching its projectiles is missiles, or it has been using drones. Thus, anything which is seen to be used as a base or as a targeting mechanism is being hit, and that's why there are multiple waves which are being launched from the Central Command side. But it puts everything in jeopardy as far as the warships, merchant vessels is concerned. Yes. Because on the other side, which is inside the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has been maintaining or regulating control over any kind of movement.
That is what the interpretation has been of the Iranian side, that as far as monetizing and also weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, that it wants to gain complete control. On the other hand, President of the United States says that the international free waterway should remain as it was before the strikes began in February. Let's in the meantime get you his latest reaction, because President Trump is now asking Tehran to behave, else will be defeated soon.
But we're here today to celebrate a colossal victory for this Commonwealth and for the entire nation. This afternoon, we're announcing nearly $10 billion of new investments in our defense industrial base right here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And these investments will create more than 4,000 jobs. Pennsylvania workers will build the ships, submarines, trucks, weapons, and industries that will ensure America remains the strongest and most powerful nation in the history of the world. We're doing better now than we've ever done. We have $19.2 trillion. We used to go million, then we went billion, now we're into the trillions, but there's never been anything like it. The country is as hot as it's ever been, and we're doing really well with Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran is not happy right now. Should have been done 47 years ago, should have been done at least during the 47-year period. And it wasn't. Other presidents didn't do what was right. They should have done it a long time ago. It would have been much easier. And they want to settle so badly. They don't like what we're doing. And they do want to settle. We'll find out whether or not we settle with them or we just finish it off. But I want to thank Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He's been amazing. Pete, thank you very much. Great job. He's been really amazing. You know, he used to do interviews. All he wanted to talk about is war. The country is booming, and we'll have...
Well, this is coming in from the President of the United States, his remarks that come after the U.S. forces launched another wave of missile strikes against Iran, with President Trump saying that Tehran wants to reach to a settlement badly, but warning that Washington could continue with its military action if needed. Now, let's get you as far as the Iranian retaliation is concerned, and the areas, the countries, the Gulf countries that host military bases of the United States that have been hit once again. Kuwait's military says that its air defense systems are currently responding to hostile drone attacks following what it describes as Iranian aggression. The General Staff of the Kuwaiti Army stated that any sounds of explosions heard in the area due to the air defense systems that were intercepting the incoming threats. Now the authorities have also urged the residents to follow the security and the safety protocols issued by the relevant authorities as the situation continues to be monitored on their front. So what are we looking at? As far as the retaliation is concerned, Mayank, on part of Iran, we're looking at mainly the military bases in Bahrain and in Kuwait that have come under repeated attacks.
Amitabh, Times Now had been counting every attack which is taking place on the countries which are surrounding the Strait of Hormuz. In that case, when you were talking about Kuwait or UAE or Qatar or Bahrain, what is happening right from the beginning? The strategy or the tactics of the Iranian forces had been that they are picking up the bases or the locations which are seen to be using as a offensive. They are using to either launch attack on Iran or are seen as defensive equipments, which can be radars, which can be also mechanism to watch or keep an eye onto the movement within the Iranian side. This is what they are doing. Other point is also they had earlier been harming or trying to destroy the places which were also used as logistical bases, administrative bases, or maybe the habitation for the soldiers which are around that area. We had been talking about the high concentration of forces in that area, and which comes up to 50,000 strong forces in that area. Mind it, Amitabh. So the concentration is also high. Iranian tactics had been that they are terming anything which is being used to launch operations on them as an enemy zone. Now, U.S. is not launching operations from its own geography or territory. It is using the bases which are around that area. Thus, they are saying that any country which is giving a base or is supporting these operations are their enemy, and they'll be, aiming at those places or the locations, Amita.
Yes.
Thus, what you see is actually sort of scattering of operations or the aiming of the areas which is within these countries and within also those two countries which you named right now, Amita.
Yes. Because we are looking at these waves, and these waves of these strikes and retaliation that are now being carried out. President Trump has called it and termed it as retribution and asking that Iran better behave. On the other side, he seems to be claiming that they want to have these establishment of these talks once again. But if the talks are genuinely happening, then who are they exactly engaging with the Iranian side? That question still remains. Thank you very much, Mayank. But in the meantime, let's get you this breaking update that is also coming in. So please do stay on with us. We have this very big statement that has now come in from the Vice President J.D. Vance, where he says that he is ruling out completely that there will be no boots on the ground. He is now saying that if the people of the Iranian regime, they do not want a regime change, if the people themselves don't want it, then it is not the responsibility of the United States to do that, saying that they are not into this job anymore. Well, Mayank, I mean, giving that an example, because this was one of the prime objectives that they launched the strikes against Iran. But it seems that they have changed their decision mid-course of this escalation of this conflict, because if they say that if the people won't rise up, then it is not their job.
Amita, let us agree on that point, that it is a big statement and is a change of course right in the middle of the operations. I mean, middle of the operations, when we say that, we presume that operations will continue for some time. And as you rightly said, in the beginning, when the three main objectives were defined for Operation Epic Fury, they were that regime change was the topmost of them. Nuclear issue and the blunting the capability of production capability of Iran to produce missiles and drones was the third one. Maybe also supporting the proxies, which is the Houthis, Hamas and Hezbollah would have been the other fourth one actually. So what you said is a big change of course of action which is going to take place. Now the other point was they had tried, I mean the experts had been saying that there was a try made. At least Quds were supposed to be launching a territorial operation from the that side, Iraq side. Yes. And it did not succeed. The other point is what we saw is actually a transfer of command, and what we see is continuity of operations, and there was no let-up in the operations which has been seen there. And galvanization of almost 180 member of parliaments yesterday when they said that operation should continue, there should be no talk, MOU should be shelved. This is the kind of reaction which has come from the Iranian side. Thus what we see is sort of a reaction to that point, Amita.
Yes.
So what we may see in the future is like operations may rise in that case. So
military operations that we are now looking at mainly, Mayank, is only restricted to, air missiles and the strikes that has been carried out. Boots on the ground is also something which is being completely ruled out. This was one of the other options that was talked about when the phase 2 of the conflict was taking place. However, it seems that this option is no longer viable and feasible for the Trump administration. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast, Mayank. Well, those are the updates coming in from Middle